So this week we're having a workshop. Next week there is no workshop because we're in Vegas for some work. And then tomorrow I'm in San Francisco for a technology conference, but I'm also going to run a side workshop for some friends. So my name is Charles Sine, CEO of the Anti-Fragility Health Clinic. We have clinics here in Anaheim and also in Ho Chi Minh City. And with Dr. Chung, we're talking about opening another branch in Hanoi in the next couple of months. So this month we're focusing on GI imbalances, gastrointestinal imbalances, with a specific focus on detox. But today I changed the topic. And it's the topic that I'm going to be talking about also tomorrow. And it's really about some fascinating work that's coming out about this concept called lifespan. So it's a book by David Sinclair. He's a professor at Harvard. And it's really causing a lot of conversations about some concepts that I'm going to talk about now. Okay, so welcome. I hope you enjoyed the talk today of this workshop. So the big conversation is starting around something called longevity. Longevity is at the heart of what Anti-Fragility Health Clinic is about. And it really is about two things. It's about lifespan and about health span. In very simple language, we've talked about this before, everybody wants to live a long and healthy life, right? And so conceptually, this is what it is about. Lifespan is about living a long life, and health span is about being healthy throughout that life. Right? Are we clear? Any problem? We have a problem.
Trying to get a pen.
Okay, do you have a pen? You have a pad?
Yes.
Guys, you need to always check whether my guests have pens and pads in case they need to make notes. All right. Get a pen and get a pad quickly to everybody. To everybody. Everybody, quickly. All right. So let's just have some conversations about longevity, okay? So if we plot lifespan against health span, right? So we'll put this like 20, 40, 60, and 100. We'll get a picture that looks like that. Right? We're at our best health when we're 20. Right? That's health. Right? And then it begins to decay. Right? And then we die. And so there, right? So, and there's a couple of ideas here that a couple of people are looking. They're mathematicians, right? And geneticists. Right, that they're looking at a couple of these ideas. They're looking at ideas around how do you slow down this deceleration? How do you slow down that? And how do you increase so that the graph begins to look more like that? Because most people spend the last 10 to 20 years of their life very ill. And we know what the illnesses are, right? They are cardiometabolic. The number one killer, right? Especially for women. Heart disease, stroke, all the cardiometabolic challenges. The second one, it's diabetes. The third one is Alzheimer's. And they said the fourth one is actually accidents. So if we look at the top three things that are killing people, which are chronic illnesses, they are all issues of health, and there are issues of lifestyle. And so the core issue is that we could make ourselves healthier. But there's new research showing that we could actually increase how long we live. And that is what David writes in the book. And David himself is showing the evidence because he is 50 years old, but his biological age is showing to be 30 years old. So we're going to talk about all of this. So they've doubled the lifespan of rats that they're testing, of all the animals that they have tested, and they are showing that there are some critical forces at work that you can actually use to increase lifespan. But there's no point increasing lifespan if the health span is not there, right? So even though I'm talking about longevity today, the more important issue is health span before you start thinking about lifespan. Is that making sense? Any questions conceptually? Kim, you look kind of worried.
No, I'm not worried. What I'm saying is that yes, you have to because you can expand my life to live longer, but my liver or my heart or my kidney, my organ is deteriorating because I'm getting old. Then
No, it's not deteriorating because you're getting old.
It's natural. When you get older, your kidney is getting.
Well, that was the assumption. That's no longer the assumption.
Yeah, the organ
And that's no longer the assumption. And
So
the
you-
reason why those things are aging is because of the persistent metabolic insults.
So because of the lifestyle or the abuse that you put in your body.
Correct.
So just say that.
So, for example, if you lived a life where you never ate sugar, your metabolic architecture would actually be very, very safe. Because the insulin mechanism is one of the most destructive forces for cardiometabolic issues. It's at the heart of that issue. So we're going to talk about some of that stuff, but that's it. So imagine there are mammals that don't get cardiometabolic issues because they don't eat sugar. And that's what the correlation they're making.
That means you need to start at the age when you're born or whatever it is. You can't just decide when you're 50 years old you don't eat sugar.
No, but well, hold on, Kim. Life is not that extreme. Wherever we are, we should make every effort to be healthy. So you can't say you have to start from when you're a baby. No, right? In most cultures, even when children are very young, they are not being fed a lot of the processed food that we are feeding children today. The amount of salt, the amount of sugar, all of that, that begins to really change the architecture, right? So we need to just be very careful about making that kind of big pronouncements. So the question for everybody's life is, what are my views on lifespan or what are my views on health span? Not everybody wants to live a long time because we make a lot of assumptions around that too. Some people want a short and amazing life. And they have the choice to have a short and amazing life. So let's talk about health span. We're going to look at about 4 things around this, and then we're going to talk about lifespan. Okay? And are we good? Are we ready for this?
Yeah.
So in health span, what do you think is the number one issue? Actually, I talked about it. What is the number one issue about our health? It correlates to something that's very important, and I don't want to go into that today, but they're finding out that about sleep, that being awake is the aberration, that being awake creates a lot of biochemical issues that actually cause us to die faster. And if you notice that animals who hibernate actually live long lives, healthy. And so sleep and its lack of sleep is really one of the biggest critical challenges that we face in health today. Sleep. Because we're supposed to sleep 1/3 of our days, 1/3 of our lives. And most of us have come to look at sleep as an irritation. And sleep, they're finding out that people who actually sleep longer actually have better metabolism, because it actually gives the body time to clean all the garbage, heal and repair. And there are levels of sleep that actually would trigger the stem cells that do repair and everything else, right? Guys, pay attention here. We're being sorry for the distractions, okay? All right. So, so let's just talk about some of these metabolic issues, okay? Some of the things that drive our health span, right? So let's start with sleep. So there are 4 things that are going to drive sleep, right? Sleep should be 8 hours long. And so sleep normally is in 4 sections when we sleep. That's what the modern research is pointing out. That our deepest sleep happens during the first 4 hours of sleep. And during these other hours, it's much lighter sleep. So we have REM and non-REM, right? So if you went to bed at 9, right? So this is 4 hours, and that's 2 hours, that's 2 hours, that's 2 hours, that's 2 hours. So that would take us to 11, and that would take us to 1 a.m., right? And typically, this is the first time when you get close to waking up. Typically, that's when you turn or you toss, right? And so you come out from that really deep sleep. That's where no dreaming happens. It's very deep. It's almost like an unconscious sleep, right? And then that's typically my first pee time and my second pee time, right? For a lot of people and for a lot of menopausal women, when they wake up in this first one, they find it very difficult to sleep again. So typically they end up sleeping 4 to 5 hours, and then that is it. And that is really why women have the higher probability for cardiometabolic events, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and all of that, connected back to that sleep. So the key issue is, how do you, when you wake up here, go back to sleep, and when you wake up again, go back to sleep? Actually, some theories are that you should actually get out of bed and go do some reading. You're going to get sleepy, and then you get back to bed. Yeah, sitting in bed and not sleeping is actually bad for you. But we have lots of natural aids to support that, right? So women who are menopausal have to address the underlying hormones that actually support and enable rest, right? Like estrogen, like progesterone, and testosterone levels. And also a management of cortisol, because for some women, it is an ability to suppress cortisol that will allow the body to go into a relaxed state, right? And so for people who cannot sleep, it's important that we look at those 4 hormones, right? We look at cortisol, because the graph for cortisol is that it should be the highest in the morning, and then it dies down, and it rises, because really it is before we wake up, our cortisol levels begin to rise, and then we wake up. Because one of the challenges they've been looking at, what wakes us up? It's really that cortisol level. It rises to a certain level, and we find we're awake. All of a sudden we're awake. It's really the cortisol. So if you cannot manage that cortisol levels, then it keeps you awake most of the night worrying, right? Then we also look at our progesterone, testosterone, and estrogen. And so the regulation of these hormonal levels, especially for men and women, is very important to sleep, right? For a lot of men also, it is issues about their prostate architecture. When they have an enlarged prostate, then there's a lot of triggers to go pee, because their urethra cannot hold a lot of pee anymore. And so there is this urgency to go pee, which actually disturbs sleep. So sleep is really the number one health issue for health span. You must sleep 8 hours a day. And if you're not sleeping 8 hours a day, you need to fix it as soon as possible. If not, it's going to affect how long you stay healthy. Any comments on that? Dr. Chung, you're smiling.
No, I only sleep 5 hours a day.
That's not good. It's not.
So if you get more than the 8 hours.
Oh, that's a good thing. Yeah. It's like little kids. Don't you see how long they sleep? It's good for the repair. I just said that. And if you wake up really rested because the body needed it, the body only sleeps for how long it needs it, except if you're a lazy guy, which you're not. Yeah. Huh? Or depressed, or if you take alcohol, then it would affect. If you're depressed, then you sleep a lot. But if like 1 day a week or 2 days a week you go to bed and you sleep like 10 hours, that is actually good for you because the body needed it. And it uses that to do a lot of repair. And that's why you find out that young people sleep a lot.
Yeah,
Right.
Because the older you get, the harder, because I can try to sleep, but there's a certain amount of time I'm just awake, I cannot sleep anymore.
Well, that's the point we're making. It's because your hormones are not balanced. That's it. Everybody's supposed to sleep properly. That's the way the architecture was created. So there's no excuse. I mean, Dr. Chung just said, I sleep only 5 hours. Well, that is really bad. But she's in her early 50s. By the time she gets to 60 or 70, that becomes a big problem. Don't forget, that is why the highest risk for Alzheimer's and heart disease is with women, menopausal women, not men.
Excuse me, I remember having conversations years ago with people bragging about only 5 hours sleep and how tough they were.
And now we're finding out that all the people who did that ended up with Alzheimer's.
No, end up with heart attack.
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of those people end up with heart attack and Alzheimer's. And it became cultural that people felt like, even in consulting and in corporate life, a lot of people brag about how they don't sleep long hours. And that's a very, very bad thing for anybody to practice. So we need to look for ways to improve our sleep. And one of the ways for most of us who are growing older is actually, and also one of the things, you don't exercise in the evening and no alcohol, right? All of those things affect our ability to sleep persistently through this. I get up to pee and I go back to sleep. I get up to pee and I go back to sleep. You'll have to deal with the consequences if you don't fix it. That's the word we're saying in this workshop. I'm not trying to validate your lack of sleep or not. That's your issue. If you don't fix it, you're going to have a cardiometabolic event. That's just what it is. And you know the increased risk now for Alzheimer's. Huh? The consequences, yes, right? And that's what this workshop is about. It's not about validating why you don't sleep. And that's the challenge we have with the medical profession today. You know, we go to doctors, and doctors just make us happy. They listen to what we have to say, and they have nothing to say. They don't read to us the riot act. You have to sleep, and you need to find out a way. One of our patients called us the other day. No, I actually was up around 2:30 a.m. after I got back to the bathroom, and I was checking all the messages from Vietnam. And I saw this email from one of my patients. All the supplements you sold me yesterday didn't work. I cannot sleep. I'm awake. So I emailed her back. I said, you should go to sleep. Relax and stop being angry with me. So in the morning when I called her, and I said, I'm going to call you in the morning. In the morning when I called her, she said, oh, I'm so sorry. I was so pissed off. My husband is there snoring and sleeping, and I couldn't sleep. And so one of the things that they are explaining is that if you sleep with somebody who snores, you should go to a different room. It actually improves your sleep. That's what the research is showing. That if you sleep with people and they disturb you, you should get another room and sleep. Actually, there's a whole, in that book, he talks about sleep and all the other things about that. Okay? Are we good on sleep? We have a lot of aids to support it. And so you should try and get the right amount of sleep because it's very, very important for your metabolism. Okay? Exercise. Well, you're mostly women, and you know, women are the culprits for not exercising. It is, yes. Mostly because when we do all the measurements for muscle mass, it's mostly women who don't have muscle mass. And muscle mass is a demonstration that you don't exercise. That's the only way you get muscle mass is from exercise. There's no other way you can, God doesn't just give it to you. All this muscle I have is from exercise.
That's required weight and intensive workout because light exercise, the cardio.
Exercise, we're talking about exercise, Kim.
Right.
Yeah. It doesn't matter the kind of exercise. And we're going to talk about the 4 kinds of exercise. So you must exercise. Why must you exercise? What are the reasons why you must exercise? Number 1
Build your muscle.
is stability. That's why a lot of old people have to use walking sticks, right? And you know, falling is the worst, the most way in which older people die. They fall and they break stuff and they die. So stability, being able to hold this frame upright, is one of the reasons why you need to exercise. So he gives an example in the video that very few people can squat all the way down. I cannot. I can go only halfway. But many people cannot go down all the way and support their muscles. Most Asians can.
All Asians do.
Because, yeah,
We're
but
born that way. Without exercise,
you're
we
not
don't
born that
squat.
way.
Yes,
You're not born that way.
Anyone can squat as an Asian.
You cannot, you were not born that way. The American Asians cannot squat. Squatting is because in the culture, most people sit down very low,
I can squat.
right? So it's not you were not born that way. It's part of the practice. If you notice,
It's culture. You go out to eat, you sit
yeah,
on
but
those
here in
little
America
stool
they
and
don't. In
all of
America
that.
they
You
don't.
just squat on the
Kim.
floor.
In America they don't do that. So here the children who were born here don't have that, and so it's all about these muscles being trained persistently. It's about exercise. It's not about genetics. It's about exercise. If you're not flexing that muscle all the time, you know, when I go to Korean restaurants in Korea, and because they have those restaurants where you actually sit on the floor, I cannot do it. It hurts me. But you see even 80-year-old Koreans folding their legs and sitting on the floor because they've been doing it all their lives. I have not been doing that all my life, right? Except if you do yoga and you're very good at it, then you have that. So stability is the first important issue about exercise. The second important issue is strength. Very important to be strong. Because when you don't have strength, then even at the muscular level, you do not have the architecture to deal properly with glucose metabolism. It happens at the muscular architectural level. So when you don't have muscle, your body cannot deal with sugar very well. So any amount of sugar comes and it escalates your sugar levels significantly. Because so when you have muscle, your body actually is much more able to deal with sugar metabolism.
So that means when you have muscle, that's how you're able to burn the calories?
Correct.
That's
Because,
what-
yes. Thank you. Yes. And so it is muscle is very important as part of strength in actually building the architecture. So when we talk about stability and we talk about strength, you now begin to see the picture emerging. Then there's the issue of stamina. Where does stamina come from? From repetition. Repetition, right? You are stable, right? Deadlift, up, down. You begin from repetition. You begin to build stamina. That's why most people don't like to climb the stairs. Climbing the stairs is not difficult. Climbing the stairs requires stamina. If you can climb 10 flights and you get to the top and your breathing is still the same, it means you're very healthy. It's a real strong sign of health. If you climb 10 flights of stairs and you're right? It means that you have real big issues with regard to stamina, right? And what are one of the best exercises to get stamina? Running, swimming, right? Exercises where there's continuous activity rather than the intermittent activity that comes when you require. What's the difference between strength and power? Very interesting words. What's the difference between strength and power?
Strength is more long-lasting. It's versus power is just an explosion.
Exactly. And power comes from interval exercises like tennis, like, right? Fast moving but short span. And it's a very important part of you building these four things: stability, strength, stamina, and power. They're all required for having a long and healthy life. Okay? So now we've done sleep and we've done exercise. What do you think the third one is?
Nutrient.
Yes. What kind of nutrient?
Micronutrient.
Okay, let's start with, thank you. So, let's start with macronutrients. And that's what's the other name for macronutrients?
Protein.
Food.
Food.
That's what we call
Protein,
food.
fat,
Yeah, and carbohydrates. All right, there are three things that we want to talk about here. Calorie restriction. Why should we restrict our calories by almost 1/3? First of all, how much calories should you consume every day? How many people know?
2,000.
For men mostly, and
no more than 1,600 calories.
for women 1,600. So when I say you should consume 1/3 of your calories,
I'm living in sin.
That means 600 calories a day. That's just like.
no, you should cut it. Sorry, 2/3.
I was
Sorry,
gonna say
Yeah,
600 calories is
2/3.
too much. It's just my breakfast food
2/3.
is gone.
Yes, you would
I'll
disappear.
be just starving the rest of the day.
So why should you be on just 2/3 of your caloric requirements daily? Because research has shown that
When you
the
eat less-
lower calories you have, the longer you live.
Is that because you make your body work less?
Yeah, because no, the
just
body is
understand the logic.
because the body doesn't need that much food. It does not. What does the body need?
Nutrients.
Correct. Now you learn the lesson. The body does not need calories. The body needs nutrients. Right? What do we need calories for?
Best
For power.
power.
Instant power. That's what we need it for. You need nutrients for those other things I wrote about. For stamina, for strength, and for stability. Okay. Are we good? Are we good? All right. So let's talk about nutrients. The first one is caloric reduction. You know, a lot of people talk about diet. It's all bullshit. It's just an examination for how much we love food. You understand? That's why we talk about diet. It's a wasted conversation, right? All you need to do is cut down the food, full stop. And then number 2 is diet restriction. What is the meaning of diet restriction?
The type of food you eat.
Yes. So when we look at carbohydrates, down,
Sugar.
protein,
Up.
no,
No.
fat, up. So that's how you need to redesign the diet. I'm not going to go whether it's Mediterranean, whether it's ketogenic, whatever it is. Why should you not reduce your protein requirement?
You need it for your muscle.
Correct. You need it to build stability and strength and power.
Can you have too much protein?
Yes. And then the kidney and the liver will suffer. Yes. So you cannot have too much protein. Actually, that's the wrong question. What should be the right question, Elizabeth? What are proteins?
Yeah, what are proteins? I'm saying because meat is protein. Also.
So no, guys, we're not in a biochemistry class. Let's go deep. What are proteins?
Amino acids.
They're complex amino acids, right? All right, so now let's talk about amino acids. There are some amino acids that you cannot have too much of, right? Like L-glutamine that builds our gut lining because the gut is always fighting with all the bullshit food we eat, right? So we always need to be repairing it. So there are some amino acids that are required continuously. That's why we ask people to take our Ultra Replenish, the GI Replenish, or the Inflamex because it continuously repair our gut. Okay, and for some, it may be too much. But fats, we are talking about good fats, not trans fats. What is a trans fat?
Process, right?
Hydrogenated oil.
Thank you. So oils that we made, human-made oils. Oils made by nature are all very good for us. So oils that we made, that we process, are what those fats that are bad for us. That's why you have to buy virgin oils.
Unsaturated fat, right?
Yes, unsaturated, virgin oils, right? So you have to buy the oils that nature made, like grapeseed oil, avocado oil, right? Coconut oil, right? Those are the oils that are very good for you, and you cannot have too much of it. Why? Because your brain is all made up of fat. And there is this stupid conversation that if you take too much fat, it increases your cholesterol. It's a lie.
That's a wrong
There
fat,
is
that's
another
why.
question now. There is a new study about eggs. Before was
It's bad for your
it's bad
cholesterol.
for cholesterol.
Eggs are
And
very
then
good for you.
Now, or 2 months ago was
Let's have one conversation,
so
guys.
much.
Yeah, you can eat
It's
eggs.
okay.
Yes,
But-
eggs are good. They're
but
good
now,
for
The
protein.
last study was last week. I was following Dr. Berg. The study was don't eat eggs, it kills you.
Yeah, but Jad,
studies.
there are lots of studies going on, so you need to be careful also. Perhaps that study came out of Cameroon. Oh, do you understand? Studies can come out of different places, right? So just not every study you listen to. Some studies are stupid. But he's correct about eggs. There is no problem. But you know, how many people is going to eat 10 eggs, right? Just enough. Just one or two eggs is okay. Yeah. If you eat too much, then there's too much protein inside of you.
Everything in moderation.
Thank you.
Yeah. Eat
Except
2 eggs
carbohydrates.
How much is moderation?
You know, because my guy who wrote Anti-Fragility said there are two big sins on earth, right? Carbohydrate and taxes. So he puts carbohydrates and taxes in the same group. Two things that will kill you, carbohydrate and taxes, right? Yes. All right, so, and then we come to the third thing about macronutrients, and can somebody guess what it is? One of the things that God gave us to actually make us live longer is fasting. Fasting is one of the ways in which you can actually increase your lifespan.
Someone asked me the question, if you're diabetic, how can you fast?
You can fast because it's good for you.
Because when you diabetic, no, that was a medical.
Just fast.
You still can fast if you're diabetic.
Yes,
because you don't
why
eat,
not?
Your insulin is gonna drop, so you can't
That's not
fast.
true. You can take, so we're talking about eating, we're not talking about medication. This is macronutrients. Did I say during fasting you should not take your nutrients? I have not said that.
Is that kind of like?
Macronutrients. You can still take your nutrients even when you're fasting.
Are you talking about intermittent fasting?
No, I'm talking about fasting.
Fasting.
Yes. For like this woman who was here yesterday, she's on a water fast, but she still take her nutrients. You must take your nutrients even when you're fasting. Because the body needs the nutrients. And the body needs the nutrients to cleanse.
How long can you go on a water fast?
As long as you want, as long as you're taking your nutrients. You can be without food for 60 days.
I do without food for more than a week.
Yeah, you can be without
Not-
food
but
for
not
60
without
days.
water. Not without water, but you can be without food for a while.
Yeah, food. Human beings don't need food that much. As long as you're taking your nutrients. Is that making sense? All right. So fasting, there are a couple of different options of fasting. I do intermittent fasting. What they recommend is that at least 1 or 2 days a month you should do a 24-hour fast. And once every 3 months you should do a 1-week water fast. If you want to live long and have a healthy life, fasting is hugely recommended. Okay?
They had a documentary on people that were living a long time and they only ate 500 calories a day for years.
Yes. A lot of the monks do that.
Calorie restriction.
That's calorie restriction. Okay. All right. So let's talk about, we're now going to the next topic, micronutrients, my favorite topic, or what we call, I have another big word for it now. Are you ready?
Ready?
Exogenous molecules. Exogenous molecules. Exogenous. What's the meaning of exogenous molecules? Google it. Yeah, things that are from outside. You see, Vincent has been my student for a long time. Soon he's going to start running this class. Exogenous molecules, there are 3 of them. What are they? Number 1 are micronutrients or vitamins, supplements. Number 2, drugs and medications. Number 3, hormones. Right? We all get hormones from outside. So these are exogenous molecules. Why do we need exogenous molecules, Elizabeth?
It helps everything function like it's supposed to.
Yeah, like they said, it's things from outside that our body cannot make or that cannot make enough. Right? Our body cannot make enough of it. So like, for example, if our body is not making enough estrogen, we get some from outside. When our body... Sorry?
What about drugs?
Same thing.
Well, drugs is the same thing.
Outside drugs.
They're just drugs, like metformin. We're going to talk about metformin shortly. Right? A lot of drugs are made artificially or from plants. Isn't it? Right? And it doesn't mean that all drugs are bad. We're going to talk about some shortly. But, so these are things that come from outside that are very useful. If you have type 1 diabetes, you have no choice.
You have to do insulin, so that's
Yes, right. So there are certain genetic illnesses that you have no choice but to be on drug. There is no natural way for us to give you insulin. Insulin is actually a drug, right? So, all right, so let's talk about supplements. How many people here take supplements daily? How many people know which supplements they should be taking daily?
It's on my recommendation. That's the only way to know. It's on my recommendation.
Oh, you have to be my patient to know,
Yeah,
right?
it's on my recommendation.
So if I didn't teach you guys, you wouldn't know? They didn't teach you in high school?
We wouldn't take them.
No.
Oh, you wouldn't take them even?
Take them if we didn't know.
Vincent, can you give me the RDA?
But no, not everyone know what the RDA is. If you ask everyone.
Well, they should. It's,
And it doesn't
it's
have
produced by the
requirements,
government.
right? It doesn't tell you in high school you have to take.
We should check one too for the Koreans because the Korean FDA should produce one too.
The interesting part is that, like, when you go
Can
to
you-
school, you have to get all your shot to go to school, but it doesn't think you have to meet all the RDA requirements to go to school. Think about
My
that.
grandmother knew about the RDA.
I don't know anything about the RDA.
My grandmother knew about the RDA. Most grandmothers knew what you had to eat every day. It's just that we became very arrogant because we got Western education.
We just know that we have to eat vegetables, that's all we know.
No, they told you the different things that you had to eat. You had to eat fermented foods, you had to eat this, you had to eat that. Did you print it? We don't have some handouts of it. Okay, so when we get it, we'll, because yesterday, what we did was that we went online and looked for all the recommendations. Thank you. So let me have a copy. Can share that. The rest of my team, no, they have it. No, you use it. They have it. They have
We
it.
have it. It's been passed out before.
I just wanted. So let's walk through it.
Raised our hands.
And if you don't know some of this stuff, then we'll send you to the punishment room. So, are you ready? Biotin. Very important vitamin. Folate and folic acid. How many people here have the MTFHR mutation? How many people know what that is?
Absorption? That's a mutation.
No, it's a mutation for your folate metabolism. Right? There must be one from the Korean. Can you check the Korean FDA and print it so that we should have it for our Korean patients? And we have the Chinese one printed already. So and we have the Vietnamese one actually in Vietnam. So we're going to print all of that so nobody can say I don't understand the English. There's no excuse. So Vietnam has it, China has it.
Arabic, please.
Huh?
Arabic.
Okay, print Arabic also. Because Jad has been pretending that, what is biotin? We're going to show you the word in Arabic. All right? Niacin, which we actually use also as a supplement,
Yes, the niacin.
right? It helps for blood circulation and cholesterol. Use lots of function. Then pantothenic acid, riboflavin, thiamine, vitamin A, vitamin B. You know those B vitamins. Very, very, oh yes. And if you're not taking them, look at the foods where you get those things from. So if you're not taking my supplements, then you are deficient on these things because we're not going to talk about the causes of chronic illness, right? We've been walking through all of this. Vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, calcium, chloride, chromium. You know, a lot of people said that if you eat salt, it's bad for your blood pressure, but that was also a lie.
Yes.
The problem is if you eat salt and you don't drink water, it raises the acidity of your blood, of your plasma, right? A lot of big lies that we have to deal with. Chromium, copper, iodine, iron, magnesium. I remember there was a class when I spoke about manganese and somebody said it was a country in Africa. Actually, most of these metals are mined in Africa. They go into your phone. Like manganese is in your phone, molybdenum is in your phone, right? Chromium is in your phone. These are rare metals. The body also needs them, right? Potassium for blood pressure regulation, selenium, sodium, and zinc, right? All these things that you take every day, and if you're not taking your RDA, then you're going to have nutrient deficiency, and soon we're going to talk about nutrient deficiency as one of the big causes of chronic illness. Okay? Drugs. I know a lot of people don't like drugs, but there are some drugs that are really necessary. For example, immunotherapies. Because if you have cancer, immunotherapies are very good, right? It could be a target therapy where they actually extract from you and build the therapy and put it back into you, right? So that it can go increase your NKT cells to go fight and destroy the cancer, right? So there are lots of things in drug development that we need to be very closely and appreciative for, right? Because there are some cancers that are single cell cancers. They come from young children. It doesn't come from bad habits like smoking or other things. And then hormones. We talked about hormones already. And so we've covered the 4 areas that are critical for health span. Now let's talk about increasing your lifespan.
Stay asleep.
So one of the things that has been discovered for increasing lifespan is metformin. Metformin is a drug that is given to diabetics. And they have found out that because of how it regulates the insulin response signal, it is very good because it actually manages, whether you have diabetes or not, it does a tight management of your glucose. It does that. Because even though we've created boundaries, if your glucose is doing that, it's actually not good, even if it's within range. So that's what metformin does. It really creates a flat line and really keeps your sugar in a really constant place, right? Because a lot of people say, oh, my doctor said I'm fine, but your sugar has a lot of irregular peaks and troughs, which strains your overall organs. So even though it's within range, it is considered to be like an assault, right? Some insult on the pancreas, on the kidneys, and all of that, right? And that's what metformin does. It really dampens what we call the wavelength and the frequency of your insulin response architecture, right? Very important. And everybody should be on 1 milligram. I think that's the dose every day. Okay? In America, it's a prescription. In Vietnam, you can buy it off the counter. In Thailand also. So there are certain countries where metformin is available off the counter, OTC. But in America, it has to be a prescription. Number 2 is what we call NADs and NMNs. I'll show you a couple of supplements that do that. So this one, True Niagen, is an NAD. Sorry, I left it at home. I'm taking it. So True Niagen is an NAD, and this one is an NMN. It's a nicotinamide mononucleotides. All of these have been tested to increase lifespan. And they're all available. And what are they doing? Let's talk about the mechanism. Elysium is another one, because at the cellular level, it's actually optimizing cellular function. So let's talk about lifespan. What is actually making you live shorter? It's something called epigenetics. Epigenetics is what is making you live shorter. And in epigenetics, we have DNA going into mRNA using nutrients to make proteins. And in that process of methylation, it actually turns off and on certain genes that are not supposed to be on and off. So aging is now considered to be a loss of information. That's what causes aging. And so they are finding out that if they can restore the information in the genetic architecture, we could live to 200 years. So, well, it's not, Kim says she doesn't want to live 200 years.
I don't even know what I look like at 200 years, so I'm not sure.
You know what it looked like.
Well, because of all the cosmetic surgery in Korea, you could say every 50 years you could change your face.
My body could run out of place to take it.
No, we could change that too. Korean technology is getting close to that. Yes, Dr. Chung just came from CES.
That's what I'm saying.
Dr. Chung just came from CES in Vegas, where they're showing how you could change all those parts with technology. So, and
do I have enough money to live that long is the most important.
that's why you should work harder.
You have to have money to live longer too.
There's going to be a
Live longer.
country for
It's
rich
gonna cost
people
lot
and
of
a
money.
country for poor people,
It costs a
right?
lot of-
Well, yeah, well, you see, Victor, on what side of this conversation are you? To live long or to live short?
No, you have to have the financial.
I'm asking
longer,
Victor.
though.
This is very creative and it's thinking. I never even thought of living 200 years. I just thought I'd live a happy maybe 100.
No, that means
you
you
are
have to still,
healthy,
Victor, that means you
you
cannot retire,
should
you have
ask
to
for
work, because you have to
long
make
life.
money.
Yeah, but
Social
why are you
Security is
speaking?
not-
Can you
That's the
let?
least of the problem.
Exactly.
That's the problem?
I
Okay.
mean, if you're going to live that old, you have a lot of experience and you can become skillful in a lot of different things and make money.
Actually, how many people read the Chronicles? The chronic. What's the name of that writer from Louisiana? The Anne Rice. What were the names? The what? The Vampire Chronicles. How many people has read the Vampire Chronicles? You should.
Have you?
Yes. And seen the movie Lestat. Because what's his name was in the movie.
Tom Cruise?
Brad Pitt
Oh, Brad.
was Lestat. Was the vampire who lived 700 years. And exactly, he had skills. And he made investments, he bought property, and by the time he was 500 years old, he was like one of the richest guys around. Because he knew all what was going to, he had houses in Irvine, right? Like the Chinese are now doing. So if you have house in Irvine and Newport Beach, but in 500 years, those houses will be $1 billion each. You see that? So you would make good investments. So we need to start thinking, what if we lived up to 120 years old? It's just a question, right? What are you going to do with it if you live to be 120 years old?
If you believe the older you get, the better you get. Because attitude, perception is everything.
I agree with Victor. The older you get, the more wise you are, right? Saul, right?
Replace
You see,
parts.
Saul loves this stuff. Kim wants to exit.
I didn't say I want to exit, I just don't know what I'm going to be like when I'm 200 years old. And you listen to this country, because statistic right now, they make it live longer is a sin, because they said now the United States, we have too many old people. We don't have the money to take care of them because they're sick.
Well,
Yeah, but isn't that the point I just made?
That's what I'm saying.
That if you are not
Yeah,
sick,
yeah, I'm not
you see,
sick.
this whole thing, the reason we're here is because we have to change our thinking because
Yeah.
we're going to live longer and healthier.
correct.
That's why we're here.
I don't want to live longer and sick. I understand.
Yeah, but you know something,
Yes.
Kim? Many people who don't want to live healthy and long are not here. They are having a breakfast at McDonald's.
Soda, please, soda.
Yes, and they're shopping with big bottles of Coca-Cola at Walmart, right? Those people don't want to live long and healthy. So once we make that choice that you want to live healthy and long, then it's a mindset change in that. How is that going to be for me?
Well, you'll
Right?
manifest
Actually,
your
David
reality.
Sinclair was beginning to say, perhaps we should have 4 marriages, each of them 50 years long, right? Marry for 50 years, then you marry again for 50 years, then again for 50 years, then again for 50 years.
You can't marry at age one, so you have to-
That long that you can marry anytime. It's gonna go too. And make sure you still, everything still functions.
Oh, it would be because we now have the
You're making an
biology.
assumption though.
Maybe
You
you
don't
should
know for
have
sure
more
it's
than-
gonna
No, we
function.
already have the
Okay, so
technologies
it's
for
proven
that.
that it still functions.
Yeah, because we have hormones. Once you have hormones, everything biologically should function. Yeah. We have hormones and we have ways now of pumping the hormones into you. And then, if there is any blemish on your face, you just fly to Korea. And you have a perfect face. Right? It will be a short flight.
It will be
Or,
a short flight for me.
no, we'll use telemedicine.
It will be a short flight.
We'll use telemedicine and we could operate for you through the telemedicine architecture. Right? Is this making sense? So, these products are already on offer. So let's look at the underlying biology of aging. So epigenetics is an emerging area. It is like a slow erosion of information that really drives the reproductive process. And that is really at the heart of aging. So if we can interfere into that process and reduce, slow down that loss of information, which is what these chemicals are doing, then aging begins to slow down because aging is really the biggest problem to lifespan. Right? It's like a car, right? A 12-year-old car. What the problem is just age and rust, isn't it? If not, the car would still perform as a car that you just assembled. So it's the same underlying core architecture. So how's this going? Everybody doing well? How are we doing for time? So we are at the 1 hour mark. So now we're going to talk about, there's food, guys. If you want to grab something to eat or have a
Let me
drink.
go back. So this is drugs. This is not supplements.
These are supplements.
No, I'm talking
Well,
about
yeah,
the metformin. No, I'm asking about the metformin.
Metformin is a
NAD,
drug, but the other ones are supplements.
Okay, so only the metformin is prescription drug.
Well, yeah, but in some countries it's not.
Okay.
And there is a movement now that to make metformin available over the counter because of its impact on lifespan and on sugar metabolism. So if it's over the counter, it will be cheap and readily available for everybody. Okay? So now let's talk about the causes of chronic illness. Because chronic illness, as you saw earlier, is the biggest risk to health span, right? And the biggest one being cardiometabolic. So let's look at the 7 causes for chronic illness. Kim, number 1,
Infection
infections.
or inflammation.
So that's why all these people who have flu are getting ready to have lower immunity and wear your masks. All right? Number 2,
Toxin.
toxicity. Number 3,
Stress.
stress. Number 4,
Lack of sleep.
genetics. Genetic risk, what you inherited. Number 5, nutrition. Nutrient deficiency. Number 6, allergens. All those things that make you. And then number 7 is aging. Those are the 7 causes of chronic illness. We could harness all of them. Then we would not have chronic illness. And most of them are lifestyle issues, right? So we'll just go simply through each one by one, and so that we get a clear understanding of each, right? So infections, how do you make sure you don't get infected?
You have to make your immunity has to be strong so you don't get infection.
Correct. Actually, a lot of people think it's about cleaning outside.
So it's your
It's really about building the good resistance, right? Because that's why in Africa you see little children playing in the mud.
They don't get sick
They don't get sick.
because they have a strong immunity.
Correct. Do we understand that? It's not really about the outside. It's about the strength of the architecture to respond to insults from outside, right? So that's why building our immune system is really a very important issue. And we have quite a few supplements around that, right? We need to, right? That doesn't mean that we expose ourselves, right? It's winter. It's important that we keep warm. And what's the best way to keep yourself warm? Yeah, he listened to my lecture. Yes, it's your neck. Wearing a scarf is the best way to keep warm. Why, Elizabeth?
Well, it's exposed to the cold air and.
The veins and the arteries.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't here for
That's
that
where
lecture.
that's where the biggest artery comes closest to the surface.
Oh. The carotid.
The carotid, yeah. That's where the biggest artery carrying blood to the body comes closest to the surface. That's why when we want to check your plaque, that's why we run the scan there, because that is where we see the rest of the arteries are where? They're deep inside. God put them deep so that you can't puncture them easily. Because imagine if you puncture an artery, there'll be blood everywhere. But when you puncture a vein, what happens? The blood is slower because it's returning to the heart, right? So that's why keeping your neck warm is very important. Why? Because the body temperature is a very important part of immunity. Body temperature is a very important part of immunity. It's very important, guys. You need to think about that. Body temperature. The body temperature is highly regulated. And so if it swings too far out and too far low, you're actually propagating, allowing certain viruses and bacteria to propagate. Right? All right. Let's look at toxicity. That's the other big one. You need to filter the air, as we're doing here. See, I have a lot of these Korean machines. We also have the water filters, right? It is important that you have filtered air and filtered water, especially if you're going to stay in a room for quite a long time. So you're breathing clean air, right? This one actually has the ability to take out real bacterial particles. They have to clean that every month. And that's very, very important that you have clean air and clean water. Clean food, clean chemicals for your body. Most people buy cheap. You know how we Americans love to buy cheap in Walmart. If you buy cheap creams and put them in your body, you're just increasing your toxicity. And you cannot go and claim later that you were not aware. Stress. Why is stress such a lovely issue, Lee?
Because stress is mostly every cause of the disease. Maybe
Stress.
Yeah.
Are you stressed? You're a young guy. Are you stressed? It's okay to say I'm not stressed.
You're stressing him out right there.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You're just stressing him out right there.
No, but no. I'm not stressing him. He
Chose to be.
he's
that's what I'm saying.
choosing
Yeah, I know.
to be stressed.
So stress.
You see the point?
Is a perceptions, or is a choice?
It's a response.
It's a response.
Yes,
Yeah.
stress is a response. So
Yeah.
there are two people. One wins the lottery, so they win the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
One is stressed because now all his friends are going to ask for money. And the other one is like, wow, now I can give all my friends some money.
Yeah, how you choose to be. Yeah.
It's how you choose to respond, right, Victor?
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So stress is our making,
Yes.
right? How we choose to respond to life, right? Somebody dies, you can choose to say, wow, what a great life. Or you could say, oh, now I am lonely. You see that? It's how we choose to respond. So stress has some other aspects I'm not going to go into, but I'm talking about what we call perceived stress, right? Genetic risk. How many people here have done their genetic sequencing? You should do it because you want to know what your parents gave you. It's like
I
the
know, I
gift.
haven't done it yet.
It's like the gift from your parents. I have, as an African American, sorry, as an African, I have a lot of fundamental weaknesses in my gene. So when we are looking at genes, we are looking at a couple of things. So what happened with mutations? Mutations were ways in which our body was optimizing itself for survival where it was. That optimization brings with it some increased risks. So, for example, Africans have stronger muscles genetically, but that makes us also prone for cardiometabolic illnesses like diabetes and things like that. Because if you have that muscle and you're not using it, then you see that? So there are genetic good things, but if they're not properly managed, then it creates a lot of bad issues also, right? So it's very important that we find out what, go ahead, Victor.
So our goal here is to kind of change the genetics. Can we change our genetics?
Well, that's what we were talking about, health span and lifespan. Yes, you can change it. That's what we call epigenetics. You're actually modifying. Say, for example, if you came from a family of fat people who were unhealthy, and you change your diet, you have low calorie, you exercise, low stress, you sleep well, your children are going to pick up this new epigenetics.
So it's a constant evolution.
Yes, constant evolution.
That means it's Darwin theory. It's correct. What you say.
That's survival of the fittest.
No, you're opening a big, big conversation.
Yeah.
Darwin theory works only within species.
But
Let's not go into creationism. For me, I believe that evolution works only within species. Like a fish does not become a man.
No.
A fish just optimizes the fish-like attitude. And men optimize men. That's my interpretation of Darwinism. Okay, so a cockroach does not become a butterfly or whatever.
But Darwin theory is not always about to change the.
Yes, well,
There's so many
we
things.
call it an optimization. So because now in America, so think about it, Koreans came or Vietnamese came to America and they were all short. Now 2 generations later, they're like that because they're eating optimized food, processed food.
Evolution.
Because they optimize their body to the surrounding area.
Correct, to the lifestyle.
It's
Yeah.
like the giraffe. A wild giraffe has
Long
tall,
neck.
long neck.
To eat from the tree.
Yeah, because all animals they eat
The-
the grass.
Yes, so it has to eat from the tree.
Now they start reaching up there.
Good education, right, about giraffes. Okay, so let's talk about, so your genetic risk is very important because also if there is cancer in your family, you really, really want to pay attention to it, right? In terms of like smoking, alcohol, the exposures that would trigger those things to happen. Then we spoke about nutrition deficiency. The body needs nutrients, full stop. If you're not giving it the nutrients, it begins to build an epigenetic architecture that is not optimized with the nutrients that it needs. And there are some really critical nutrients like vitamin D, like vitamin B12. I'm just picking a couple. And 95% of Americans are short of vitamin D. Right? Why? Because we don't go out into the sun anymore. And that's the only place where we can make vitamin D naturally from, by being outside in the sun. Then our body will make vitamin D. Or we take the supplement. Right? Now I've started taking like the 50,000 1-week dose, right? Where you take it just weekly to just make sure that you build up. Most of the labs we run, almost everybody's short on vitamin D. And so it's a critical vitamin that you need to take. I don't want to go into the biology of it, but then let's talk about allergies. Allergies are very challenging things, right? Because they trigger the body, they trigger the immune system to begin to over-respond, and in some cases become what we call autoimmune illness, which is where the body begins to attack the body. And that is when you have persistent things that are influencing, like dust, like mite, all of that. So it's very important that you live you change your mattress every 5 years.
Really?
8 years.
Yes. You have to change your
You
mattress.
have to change your mattress because otherwise you're gonna have bug span. You're gonna have
Ticks and bugs in the mattress. Why do the ticks and bugs grow in your mattress?
Why?
Because at night you sweat, and the ticks love, that's what they eat.
Well, wait,
But where's the tick come from?
it's
Yeah, why do they get it in
yeah,
your
no,
bed?
it's
Yeah, I
You
wanna know.
carried it there. When you wash your clothes, you dry your clothes, it's everywhere.
I wash it, dry them in the machine. The heat would have killed it already.
No.
Yeah.
But then from outside, sometimes you lie on your bed without showering, or if you shower, you didn't shower enough. Come on. Right? You don't have perfect hygiene. Who here has perfect hygiene?
We think we do.
Eh?
I mean, I hope I have. I don't know. I shower every day. I brush my teeth.
Yeah, and then the
So-
clothes that you took from outside, or the shoes, right? That's why in
We don't put
Asia
shoes
you
in
don't
the
bring
house.
your shoes inside. But you take your clothes inside, and this clothes is coming with all the microbiome of all the people that you met,
Or
with
when
all
you
the bacteria.
Or when you travel, then you carry the
In the
clothes.
plane,
In the
yes.
plane,
And then you know sometimes when I'm on the plane and then I put the tray down to eat, I take that wet napkin and clean it because all night I'm going to be working on that tray, right? And so people just start playing with the tray. What is the dirtiest place on an airplane seat?
Handles.
The pocket.
pocket. There's so many types. Or the remote control, whatever.
The pocket.
Yeah, the pocket.
Disgusting. Right? Sorry, I mean, when you're flying now, don't be like, oh my God. But just be aware that it's really, these seats are not cleaned that often. And people have really dirty habits. Even on the plane, very few people wash their hands after they use the bathroom. Right? Not to talk about when they're on land, right? So the plane seat is a very dirty environment, even if it's first class.
Doesn't matter because you have 1,000 people who sit on that seat and sweat on that seat. Come on.
And sleep on it.
What they give you a sheet to put on?
No, that's in business class. They don't give you a sheet in economy.
No, you bring your own sheet.
Right? Okay. Then let's talk about aging. We spoke about aging already, that loss of information, that is what. And so it leads to what we call 7 clinical imbalances. You know, everything about me is 7. And those 7 clinical imbalances is what we treat, right? 7 clinical imbalances. That's why you go to the doctor. What's the number 1 imbalance?
Inflammation.
No. The number 1 imbalance, the source of all illness.
Pain. Infection. Pain.
Gastro.
Gastrointestinal. GI. The GI.
Because you all eat bullshit. You all eat crap. You know why? You outsource your food to restaurants. And you don't even know how well they cook the shit, right? So, isn't it? You don't know what kind of water, whether they wash their hands, whether the fruit was rotten, whether the vegetable. Do you understand? You have no idea whether the fish was already rotting, because some of you cannot even smell it. I can smell a rotten fish from a mile. Right? Most of you cannot even smell bad fish. How many people here can smell bad fish?
I can smell.
In your food?
You can taste it when you know it's bad.
Taste?
No.
I can smell it from the kitchen.
No, that I can't, but I can taste it.
Do you see the point? So most of you are eating rotting food and you don't even know. Right? So the gastrointestinal imbalances. And then number 2 is what? So if gastro is number 1, what is number 2?
Detoxification.
No. Immune imbalances. Why is immune imbalances number 2?
To fight.
Because your body is working.
Because 80% of our immune system is tied to our GI. And when our GI is compromised, it compromises our immune system. Do you see that? All these people who have infection, oh, every time I get the flu, because your GI is screwed up. Do you see that? So when your GI is screwed up, that's why you get a lot of infections. And that's when cancer also grows, because your immune system was asleep. Or your immune system is focused on dealing with your lousy GI. Right? And that leads to the third big imbalance, which is cardiometabolic. Because you eat bad food, right? Because you love calories. That's the big enemy, calories. Why do we like calories? So it's genetic, right? Our love for calories. Why do we love calories?
I would like to eat everything I can and not have calories.
No, you're not answering the question. Why do we love calories?
We don't.
I'm looking at Dr. Chung. Why do we love calories, Dr. Chung?
It makes us feel come good.
No, it's because our ancestors used to work all the time. We just became a lazy generation. So we still eat like our parents, but we don't work as hard.
I see.
Right? Now we have people to clean our house. We have people to cook our food. We have people to drive. We even have people to exercise our arms.
Machine.
Right? And people pack in front of the gym to go exercise. Because if you park very far away, you have to walk. And walking is such a challenge. Right? Yeah, you don't want to walk. You just want to be carried in your wheelchair to go exercise. Then brought back in your wheelchair back to your car, right? But we still eat the way we used to eat. Number 4 is what all this leads to is musculoskeletal. And the source of this is pain, right? Inflammation. These things all lead to us having pain. Aches and pains, right? Yeah, your back hurts.
Knees hurt or what?
Your brain hurts because Charles has been talking for 1.5 hours. Your brain does, it's not so, right? Every Saturday, exercise your brain. Now your brain is sweating. Your brain hurts, right? So, number 5 is stress response. Right? We know that there are 4 parts to stress, right? Number 1, there is perceived stress, which we talked about. Number 2, there is inflammation, which really comes from GI. Then there's glycemic, which also comes from GI. And then there is, what's the last one? Sleep. See, when you don't sleep, you're stressed, but you don't know because all the signals, all the inflammatory signals and all of that are captured. And then what's number 6? Hormone. We've talked about that. And number 7, energy. Okay. So in our clinic, in anti-fragility health, these are the imbalances that we are looking when we run your diagnostics. These are the early signs that God has given our body to show that illness is coming, something is not right. And most people go to the doctor and waste their time. Like the guy who walked in here yesterday, he said, I said, what is your blood pressure? He said, oh, my doctor said it's fine. That's a stupid American response. What is your blood pressure? My doctor said it's fine. It's like, are we in kindergarten? That's stupid. What is your blood pressure? He is 67 years old. Oh, my doctor said it was fine. Well, my machine is saying it's 147/85. You have hypertension. Oh, but my doctor just said it was fine. I said, then he's stupid or you are ignorant. He just came from across this doctor here and he walked in here to do a Menla scan. I said, you should be on medication. Oh, but he said it was fine. I said, well, are you going to die because he told you it's fine, or are you going to take care of it? See the stupidity of living in a lazy culture? A culture where people are intellectually lazy and spiritually lost. So I'm talking about your health, and you're arguing with me that the doctor said it was fine. It's like, why should I care if you fucking die right now? Sorry. It's so stupid. We just measured it. You should be saying, wow, are you serious? How come the measurement over there said something different from your measurement, right? Now I think you're engaged in wanting to improve your health. Instead, you're fighting with me. I told him that I think you should be going. Go down the street somewhere. Don't die inside my clinic. Yeah, or go across the street there, right? So there is this issue that a lot of people don't want to know. So I asked him, what is your HbA1c number? That's the diabetic indicator. Oh, the last time I tested, they said it was fine. That's what's killing us. And yesterday there were some women here and I asked them, should we have free health care? And she said, damn no. Why? Because everybody should be responsible for their health.
Yes,
Isn't it?
I agree.
Except I live in a culture where I can control how you live. Why should I pay for your health care? It's a very important issue, right? And we're having this debate in America and everybody, we need free health care. No, I don't want to pay for your health care until you stop drinking Coke.
What you're saying is correct, but you have to change the culture. It's the way we're brought up from the get-go. You're talking about how it should be, but it's not that way.
Well, but that's why we're here.
Wow.
And that's why I'm trying to change the conversation. When people come here, that's why we offer a lot of these diagnostics here for free. Right? Come in, do your blood pressure check. It's 147. Oh, that's not right. Okay, you want to do it again? It's like you're fighting with me. You have high blood pressure. Right? And you're seriously overweight. So what do you think? Right? At 67, you're seriously overweight. You have high blood pressure and you had cancer before. I'm like, you're going to have cancer again. What is the probability? If you're over 40, 50 pounds overweight, you had cancer before, you have high blood pressure, what's the chance of you having cancer again? Really, really high. But he said, my doctor didn't say that. I said, because he's ignorant. Right? So if you are paying to go see an ignorant doctor, that's your choice. I love freedom in America. Freedom to deal with stupid, ignorant people. Right? Or you come to where you can deal with people who really care about your health and are going to give you the proper information and guidance to do that. Right? So all our supplements, we've rearranged them, is arranged around addressing these underlying imbalances. Right? From what we call our recommendation 1, which is RDA, 2, 3, and 4. But you know, as Victor said, the big issue is not really this knowledge. The big issue is your mindset. Do I want to live healthy
Yes.
or not?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Well, there's another positive side to this, is that this clinic and us, we're going to be around forever.
Well, hopefully. Hopefully. So that's the big central question about mindset. Do I want to live long and do I want to live healthy?
Yes.
When you answer that question correctly, then you can get to saying, how do I achieve a long and healthy life? Right? So that's the central thing that we've been trying to talk about. Any questions so that I can round up? Victor, how was this today?
It was very interesting. I've attended a few other classes before, but every time I come to a class, the dots are connected and it makes more sense.
Okay.
And this was very interesting. I gained a little bit more insight, and I want to thank you for having these classes.
Thank you. We keep hoping. We started with one person, and slowly, right? Slowly, we're going to grow. So how are you doing?
Pretty good. And my friends have been asking me, what do you do? Because I go to church first in the morning
Yeah.
and then go straight here.
Yeah.
Why are you rushing? I said, I'm attending this workshop. What do you get out of it? I said, it deals with your wellness. Yeah, I said, well, most people, want to just go to the hospital to be treated for your illness. But this clinic teaches you how to, live, a healthy life.
I don't want you to go to hospital.
I know.
Because that's what doctors are trained to do,
Yes.
actually. Doctors are not trained to keep you healthy. They are trained to take care of you when you're sick.
Yes, yes.
And by then, for most of us, it's too late. That's what they train medical profession, that's what they do. Right?
And I told my primary physician about the stem cell I did.
Yeah.
And he was okay with it. That's why I had my lab work. He ordered my lab work again.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't gotten it yet. But
Yeah.
if I will bring it over.
But we can see even from your face that you're looking good, you have more energy, right? And you're not going to get on dialysis
No, I'm not.
for the next 20 years.
That's the ultimate goal. Yeah.
Yes,
Wanna
that
be
you
on
stay
dialysis.
healthy. Jad, you're looking happy these days. There was a time you were trembling every time you see me.
No.
I was like the Armageddon man. How are you doing?
Really good.
Okay.
It's like when I come Saturday, it's like I'm going Sunday to the church. I have to come every Saturday to attend.
So we could call this Saturday church.
Saturday church.
We could call it Saturday church,
I try.
right? Yeah, we'll call it Saturday church. Elizabeth.
Because our body, it's our church.
Yeah, it's a temple of God. They
Temple
talk
of
about the
God,
temple of
yes.
God. Yes, that's it. I agree with you. And we need to take care of it properly because it's a sacred, sacred task. Yes, to take care of it properly. Elizabeth.
So I kind of fell off the wagon during all the holidays and parties. Yeah.
That's like a typical American. Yeah.
I was a typical American the last month,
Yes.
and now I am going to be a typical
coming back.
She's
health
paying for it.
I did actually. I was just on the verge. I almost got the flu twice, and I took these pills from here, and
They're supplements
within 24
to
hours,
boost your immune system. So what she's talking about is that we have supplements. The minute you start like having itchy,
All the yeast thing.
Yeah.
you take the wheat germ.
fermented
It's
wheat
ultra
germ.
what is it called?
Yeah. MetaPro and all Ave Nutra.
Okay, neutral.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was really glad to come back because we are talking about longevity and lifestyle, and it is my it's my plan to be
200 years old.
200. Well, I'm good with 120 right now.
Hmm.
Next lifetime, maybe 150.
And then after that, like 300.
Why not?
And then you'll become like a Lestat.
It's always good to be, and I'm on the cleanse right now.
And so we're going to put you on metformin and the NADs and the NMM.
Okay.
So we're going to put you on that because I think that it's important that I'll send you some of the literature about his 80-year-old father who's now behaving like a 50-year-old.
Did okay, what's that?
Sorry, I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
Nothing. I can't remember in the next 5 minutes.
All right. Okay, we'll come back to you. Kim is also really fascinated that she's going to be working for me.
Yes.
You know, that's not something most people look up to, right, Vincent? You wake up every morning and you sweat. Oh my God, I'm going to be with Charles today. You sweat from the anticipation. Right? Go ahead, Kim.
No, I mean, it's just like Victor said, to practice this lifestyle, the health span, the lifespan and the health what?
Span.
Health span. You have to have a mindset and you have to believe in it to practice. And then you have to understand-
want it too.
You have to want it to do it.
Yes.
Yeah. Because like that's why people fail on diet because they cannot commit to it.
And it's interesting. Let me just explore that because
Yeah.
one of the things
It's a
David
hard
Sinclair
commitment.
says
People
in
cannot
this
commit.
book is that you need to change your relationship with food.
Yes.
If you're obsessed about food and addicted to food, you can never be healthy,
You cannot.
right?
Yes.
You need to move away from food completely.
Honestly, yeah. You have to have self-discipline.
Yeah.
Because I've been attending, you know how Filipino parties are.
Yeah, so me too.
They have, all those meals.
Lechon and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of that.
But I look and I know that you know, whatever.
It's not good for you.
Because the
That you don't
knowledge is-
need it.
Yeah, when you know that it's not good for you, you know the side effect that it's going to do to your body.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
if you understand the 7 clinical imbalances,
Yeah.
then when you look at it, even though you have a temptation,
Yes.
you're going to resist it more.
Yeah, you have,
And that's
you
the
have
thing
to
because
discipline
like
yourself.
I said, I love
Yeah.
food and I love sweet, but lately, I don't develop craving for food anymore, which is weird. I don't know how did that happen.
Yes.
But
You
I-
lose the craving, and that's
I
what
lose the
David says.
craving for food.
That the more you begin to do caloric restriction and that restriction, you actually lose that
Right, yeah,
addiction to
It's
food.
a mindset, like Victor said,
Yes.
because the more you doing it and the more you doing it, then
Yeah.
it's like I just take my protein in the morning and the evening that I have a lunch, but that's it. And then I'm not hungry anymore.
And so what Kim is saying is very important, guys. You begin to move to 1 meal a day,
Yeah.
and then use the protein drinks and the nutrient drinks as one of your meal replacements. So basically, you should be on 2 meals a day, and cut out, because if you're eating more than twice a day, it's too much food.
And I serve two purposes. I take that means I fulfill my nutrient requirement
Correct.
allowance, and then
Yeah.
and also maintain my weight.
Yeah. Thanks, Kim.
So
So Lee, your first time in my workshop, how was this? When you saw me in Korea, you didn't know that I was a prophet.
there's a lot more you don't know.
From Venus.
How's your first workshop with me?
It was very interesting that I learned something like the other people like won't like
Yes.
teach. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And very briefly, so what I tend to do is that I try to go over this again and again, because it's really a mindset change. Because I didn't say anything here today that you don't know, but it is the way we are structuring it so that you begin to see what's important and what is not, right? And that your mind begins to change around some of the choices that you begin to make, and then you begin to change the underlying habits, right? That's the critical thing. So, but thank you for being here, and I hope it was useful. Dr. Chang?
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here, second time. And I was quite impressed by Mr. Sina's dedication for education, for health. I'm not so familiar with health stuff, but I'm a professional in creating a curriculum for the Korean beauty technology. I'm pretty comes from IT part, and then I'm pretty excited to merge two things: health and beauty in Vietnam, Hanoi, government certified health and beauty program. So I'm very focusing on now what Mr. Sina said today and how it will relate to the products, good product and services in an Asian culture.
Mm-hmm.
They're quite different.
Yeah.
The cultural difference between the recognizing and evaluating and practicing health and beauty.
Yeah, it's very different
Yes.
culturally,
It's
yeah.
more of an outside first, so we have to change the
Yeah.
mindset.
Right.
Because like I said, if I'm gonna spend money to make my outside look pretty, I would like my inside to be as pretty as well, so I can maintain both.
Exactly, and that's why this conversation about lifespan and health span, it's a very interesting, because you heard Kim saying, if I'm 150 years old, how am I going to look?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So
if I'm gonna
looking
live that- yeah.
healthy
I still
and
want to
being,
look good at 150 years old. Let me
yeah,
put
she
it that
wants
way.
to
So
really
how do I
attract
maintain that?
men, and that's why we say you can marry 4 times, because and in Korea
No,
they
why
can
4
change
times?
your
I can-
face
I can
4
marry as
times.
As many as I want.
No, I'm just saying that was the minimum.
I know, minimum. Okay.
Yes, and in Korea
It's
they
like
can
Sharia,
change.
it's like-
Yes, they can change your face every time. So this time you have a Korean face, the next time a Japanese face, the next time a Vietnamese face, the next time a white face. You can have those options, right? Like a menu. So, well, thank you guys, and thanks my team. Dr. Noel is sitting back there with Dinah, with Grace, with Luis, with Vincent, and I keep forgetting your face, cameraman. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Mike. Thank you, Mike. And see you in another week.